Hi everybody, this is Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. Long time no see. It's been like 6 weeks and I've done a lot of reading, so I have a lot to tell you about. So let's go ahead and get started. This is what my summer romance book bingo card looks like right now. I have not made bingo yet, but I've covered a lot in the past month and a half, and we're at the halfway point now. So fingers crossed that I'll at the very least get one or two. So let's get going on what I've read so far. The first book I read was let's see here. Okay, the Harlequin Mills and Boone category romance, and that book was Where the Wolves Lead. I got this secondhand, so it wasn't in very good condition. I did not scribble on it. And like I said, this is very old. It was published, this particular edition was published back in April of 1981. I found it when I was looking for the book that was in the year I was born, which is 80, and I just missed out, but I went ahead and read it anyway as a part of that prompt. So this guy's name is ridiculous. I'm just gonna read it. Dracon Le Loup Blanc, so Dragon the White Wolf or whatever. He basically tricks this girl into getting engaged because she was hanging out with his nephew or his cousin. Yeah, his cousin, who he wants to marry somebody else. So he gets engaged to her, brings her home, and eventually they end up getting married, and you know, it's a romance, so they get together. This was fine. I gave it 3 stars. Then the next thing I read was for the book that was published the year I was born, and that's Kiss of the Tyrant by Margaret Pargeter. This was published back on, let's see, December 1980, so just under the wire. And again, you have one of these. So Stacy had a bit of an issue with sexual harassment at work, so she went home for a while, and she ends up helping her mom out at her bed and breakfast, and this man and his mom come and stay, and she ends up going back to his station. Is it a station? It's kind of like the Australian form of a ranch or something. And so they, you know, fall in love and all that good stuff. And yeah, again, that was 3. It was a while ago, and these kind of run together sometimes. But it was good. I did not dislike it. So next up, was the book that I read for the book by an author that shares your first or last name, and I read the short story collection, The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Jen Campbell. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. A couple of the longer short stories I thought kind of went on a little long, and these are all kind of, I don't know, they're very odd stories. Including one with a swan heart. And the one I was looking for the most was like my least favorite. The one with the coffin hotel and all that. But in general, I really enjoyed this. And yeah, ended up giving out 4 stars. And then next up we have, the subgenre of a romantic suspense, and I'm gonna put a picture in here somewhere. And what I read was Heartbreak Sheriff by L. Kennedy, and I hope rereads aren't discounted because I was halfway through when a major plot point happened, and I was like, I have totally read this before, and I didn't know, because when I was younger I read so many and they all just sort of blended in together, and I didn't keep a very good I didn't keep any documentation of all the stuff that I read. So occasionally I'll get into a book and I'll be like, okay, this is super familiar. And in the end, it ended up that once I figured out that I'd read it before, I knew beat by beat what all the plot points was. In the end, this ended up getting 3 stars. It just, I don't know. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I'm not into suspense very much, so that kind of detracted too. One book that I had been reading, like I didn't use it for the book bingo because I started it in June. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I finished this yesterday, I think. Yesterday or the day before. And at first when I started, it wasn't exactly kind of what I thought it would be, because when you hear, you know, humans and sentient spiders, you think they're gonna like have a lot to do with each other, and they don't. It's really like the spiders on the planet and then the humans in their spaceship running along parallel courses. And I found the spider sections a little bit tedious because there was a lot of explaining things, because, you know, when you're dealing with humans, you can use shorthand because we basically, you know, if you've been out in the world, you understand how this whole people thing works. Spider communities and stuff like that is not really, you know, all that well known. And so I understand that it was necessary, but those parts did drag for me. However, this ended on like, I loved the last like 20% of this book. And then the, you know, the climactic, the ending can be a little anticlimactic, but that's because it's so clever. But I really, really enjoyed this, and I gave it 4 stars, and I would like at some point to read the sequel, Children of Ruin, but I do not know when that is going to be. And that did not go on the book bingo because I had started it a little bit before that whole thing started. So let's see. I am Goodreads friends with Mara from Books Like Whoa, and she had, I think she reviewed this one or she reviewed the other one. And I thought the plots were interesting enough so that I ended up picking them up myself. They were super duper mega cheap on Kindle. And so this book right here, this one was the first one I read. It's Secret Santa by Katie Wilde. And that went under the book you most recently purchased. Like I said, I got that and then I read it basically the same day, so that counts. And so what happens is this girl whose name I cannot remember, that's horrible, Emma, and she has this job at a place where they do furniture. And one of the main guys there, the son of the owner, is Logan, is kind of like growly and he's kind of like intense, but he really likes her, but she thinks he hates her. And so they end up doing the Secret Santa thing. And this is very short, but it's really cute. And I really enjoyed it. And yeah, that went under the book you most recently purchased. The next up I read by Katie Wilde. I don't know if I'm going to read any of her other books because they mainly deal with a motor club with like bikers and stuff, and that's not my thing. But this next Christmas one is All He Wants for Christmas by Katie Wilde. And this detective who got shot is basically on leave, and in order to like have something to do but to still rest, he ends up being in charge. Well, he gets asked to keep an eye on this heiress who just moved into his apartment building. And so they end up hooking up, obviously, because it's a romance. And this went for my a book set in winter, and this happens around Christmas time, so it counts. It actually starts closer to around Thanksgiving, but winter lasts a while, so technically isn't it almost, I don't know, technically it might be autumn, but whatever. If I have to, I can just switch those two around. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I got 4 stars. Again, it was also short, but it never takes me long to read romances anyway. So next up, my free space. I got my free space. The October Man by Ben Aronovich. And this is a novella in the Rivers of London. It's Rivers of London adjacent, for one, because this is happening in Germany. It's not happening in, it happens in Trier, Germany. And it doesn't involve Peter Grant. It involves this the German equivalent of Peter Grant, and his name is Tobias Wolff. And at one point somebody calls him Toby, and I'm like, that's the name of the dog. Toby's the dog. You don't... Anyway. He could have had a better name. So anyway, a man gets dead because of some magical stuff, and Tobias Winter gets called in to deal with him, and there is a German river, and there's a whole bunch of wine stuff, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, this was pretty good. It does bring in some stuff. Well, one, Peter Grant gets mentioned, and so does Nightingale. And you can see that this particular area is running on like parallel lines to London. And there is some stuff that comes up that might have some implications for the larger series. And I like that. I was not totally convinced about the ending. I don't know. I thought it was going to be a little bit more interesting. Well, not interesting. I thought it was going to be a little bit more tangled than it actually was, and it ended up being pretty straightforward, which bummed me out a little. I don't know. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I enjoy all the Rivers of London stuff, and this was no exception. So that was my free space. All right, so that is all for my book bingo, as far as what I've actually read. What I am going to be reading in the next couple of weeks before the 22nd, because the 22nd starts the reading rush. Is it reading rush? Yes, the reading rush. And I'm going to have a separate TBR for that because I'm participating in that. So be on the lookout for that maybe in a couple of days or whatever. I don't want to leave it too long because everybody's putting theirs up already, even though it's like more than a week out. But anyway, so I'm going to do that one eventually. But as far as the summer romance book bingo, I've got some books in that I had on hold from the library that fit the some of the prompts. The romance published in 2019. That is going to be Meet Cute by Helena Hunting. That name always gets me. It's a very contemporary cover. Contemporaries aren't usually my thing, but I do make an exception on occasion. And this involves a lady who meets a old, well, not an old actor, it's more like a retired actor or something, and something happens and they break up or they don't, and then she has to help him with his like teenage niece or whatever, and then they end up back together, I guess, or something. I don't know, I haven't read it yet. This could, I don't know, go the way of no romance ever and they can end up not being back together, but yeah. What's the likelihood of that happening? And this one will be for the sports romance, and this is also by Helena Hunting. This is Good Luck Charm by Helena Hunting. And so this woman, her name is Lila, and her boyfriend is a hockey player, and he left her to get NHL stardom or whatever, and I don't know, he's going on a downslope, and he's like, dude, I need my mojo back, and I had most mojo when I was with Lila. So there's that. Somebody is doing our yard. So I'll just go ahead and get this finished real quick. I totally forgot to tell you that I am currently reading Practical Demon Keeping by Christopher Moore. It is a book about, I do not know why they're here on a Saturday, they usually come on Friday. Anyway, Travis, who's stuck with a ride-along demon by the name of Ketch, and he pulls into the city of Pine Cove, and they're causing a lot of havoc. This is Christopher Moore's debut novel. I've never read it before. I've read plenty by Christopher Moore, and I just wanted to get this one read. It's very easy. I have a feeling the ending is going to piss me off, but I'll let you know when I'm done. I'm not quite there. I'm like 75% done. And then coming up again, let's see. Oh, a book with a night scene on a cover. I have decided that I'm going to use Technomancer, Unspeakable Things, Book 1 by B.B. Larson. Let's see what this is about, because I've slightly forgotten. Yeah, Quentin Drake. He wakes up in a private sanitarium. He has no memory of who he is or how he received the injuries, riddling his body. All he knows is he has to get out, away from the drugs being pumped into him, and back into the real world. So this has to do with a hacker, I'm pretty sure. Or like cyber, supernatural business. It's kind of like paranormal, like cyber paranormal. Technomancer. And of course I was drawn to that because I love Neuromancer. And the band Zeromancer, but they took their name from Neuromancer, so there's that. Alright, so it's getting really noisy up in here, so I'm gonna let you guys go. But hopefully I will have some good reports to give you, and be on the lookout for my Reading Rush TBR coming up in the next couple of days. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!